Mark Carney gave a speech at Davos last week, and it hit really hard, and I want to talk about it. Davos, the World Economic Forum, a bunch of rich people and world leaders get together to make big decisions and have hissy fits. If you were unfortunate enough to watch any of Donald Trump's speech, it was,
You know which one he
shameful,
chose?
embarrassing. What was that?
I said, you know which one he chose. He chose Hissy Fit.
You're right. Well, it was a little lethargic
Actually,
for a hissy fit.
we'll get into his Davos performance tomorrow,
Okay, good.
but today we're talking about Mark Carney and the end of
Right.
the American Empire.
Yeah. Up north, they have a president who can string words together and also thoughts. Yeah, I mean,
Damn, I'm jealous.
I'll start with.
This is news to me. I thought they had a prime minister.
Did I say president? Oh gosh.
You did.
Yeah.
Boy, is your face red.
Okay. All right. So. No, it's not. So here's what he talked about. So, he compared the American-led rules-based system to totalitarianism. And
Oof.
yeah.
How unjustifiable. We've never acted in an authoritarian or totalitarian fashion. Absurd.
Right. So they say it's an essay, but I mean, I've seen it as in a book form, and it's a little bit long for an essay in my book. The Power of the Powerless by Václav Havel. Now, I read this right around the time when Trump came back into power because it's a struggle to wrap your head around awful events and such a deranged mass psychosis. So, but yeah, it's a really insightful book. I would definitely recommend it. The main idea is that totalitarianism is not something that's imposed on us from above. It's something that we participate in and we impose on each other. And he gives the example of someone who runs a grocery store who puts up a sign that says "Workers of the World Unite." Václav Havel was a Czech poet in the Soviet when the Soviet Union was dominating
When they were part of
Czechoslovakia.
the Soviet Union.
When they were part of the Soviet Union. So "Workers of the World Unite" is a Soviet slogan. To left-leaning people, it's not like workers of the world should unite. People of the world should unite. But by the time that Václav Havel was around, this was a totally empty slogan. The Soviet system had no interest in helping workers. It was a totalitarian dictatorship, corrupt to the core, dominating and depressing its people. And so when the grocery store owner puts up the sign that says "Workers of the World Unite," they're not actually expressing enthusiasm for solidarity amongst the world's workers. They are taking part in, they're living a lie. They're signaling to the world, like, I'm part of the system, please leave me alone. And that's what he said, that's what Carney is saying that the countries of the world are doing by working with America, basically. So anyway, so he offered a strategy for middle powers, like most of America's allies. Think Canada, European countries, most countries in the world. He's advocating for the middle powers to stop the bilateral deal making with Trump to curry favor. And because he basically says this doesn't work. And instead, he is advocating for sort of two things: a little bit of fortressification, where the middle powers need to build self-reliance to their energy, food, supply chains. And they also need to build ad hoc alliances sort of on an issue-by-issue basis where their interests are aligned. That's his antidote to America gone rogue. Right before, I believe, the week at Davos, Canada signed a bundle of trade agreements with China to diversify against American bullying. Carney, I think that a lot of the reason why pundits think that he won the election up there in the first place was that he was tough in his responses to Trump. Basically, his party trailing in the polls big, but like when Trump says shit like we're gonna turn them into our 51st state, his tough threatening talk didn't play well up there, and Carney didn't bend over for it. Yeah, so a couple examples of these like small deals in this bundle with China. They're going to allow 50,000 electrical vehicles annually to be imported at much lower tariffs, something like 5% instead of 100% tariffs.
But importantly, as part of that deal, after that 50,000 EVs, they're going to require any Chinese factories that are let into the country. They're going to need to have Canadian ownership at like 51% or greater, and they will be required to have expertise sharing with their Canadian partners. So he's trying to build up, like after the imports, trying to build up Canadian capacity.
Right.
This is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
similar to what China does for its own companies, right? Requiring
That's
Chinese
exactly
ownership.
how
And
China got that capacity. Yep, same
Yep.
model.
So another deal, so China has high tariffs on, or had high tariffs on Canadian food, and they had an outright ban on Canadian beef. Yeah, a lot of deals like this, basically working closer together, getting rid of barriers between each other from Canada's point of view. Canada, by far, the most trade that Canada does is with the US, and they're being bullied because of this, and so they need to diversify. So,
And de-risk. They see America as a risk to their prosperity and security. So in
shameful
order
shit,
to
dude.
de-risk from us, their long-term ally and partner, they need to go their own way and invest more with other partners that can help them with prosperity and security.
yeah, I mean, how could you blame them? I mean, I didn't say this part about the power of the powerless, right? So the power of the powerless has a prescription. It has a cure for totalitarianism, which is living within the truth, not putting up the workers of the world unite sign. And it's this approach of Canada to see America as a security risk is just simply the truth. Like like you can't blame them for seeing this. Like you can wish that they reasonably hold on to hope in Canada that Trump will get kicked out and we'll get something a little more sane up here. But they know that there's a large appetite in America for somebody like this who's just like deranged bully to just go. That Americans, many Americans, just think that we ought to own everything, that everyone ought to be our bitch. And so, if that's a lot of the American population, then it is crazy to think of us as an indispensable ally. Like that's just not what we are. Who can blame them?
Indeed.
Yeah, it's like there are consequences to throwing off these old partners and abandoning your responsibilities on the world stage and acting selfishly. People no longer see you as a friend, and there are consequences to that.
All those threats of
Yeah, I mean,
invasion really angered them for some reason.
I have some quotes from this that I pulled up, and so let me go through a couple of these. So, intermediate powers like Canada are not powerless. They have the capacity to build a new order that encompasses our values such as respect for human rights, sustainable development, solidarity, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of the various states. Yeah, I think it's interesting how like Donald Trump doesn't believe this, right? He thinks that these
Sure.
countries are powerless.
I'm sure he's not exactly quaking in his boots at the idea of them being a human right observing superpower. You know, it's not exactly top of his mind at the moment.
Right.
But I mean, it makes me
Well,
much more inclined to want to live in somewhere like Canada that is trying to focus around things that I value rather than this might makes right America that we're living in right now.
this one was thought provoking for me because, it's easy to blame Trump for all of this. Trump is spectacularly at fault. But one of his quotes is, we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. Meaning, like, this predated Donald Trump, right?
Definitely,
like America committed war crimes and got away with it because America was the boss. And they kind of ignored it. Like they're willing to tolerate that.
It was convenient enough for Canada to go along with that falsehood because they could rely on us as a partner that had similar goals. That we had a lot of mutual benefit to just maintaining that lie.
Also, we used to be genteel about our war crimes, and we perpetrated them on other people, not Canada.
The gentility is the thing that sustained the system. And now that gentility is gone, now we're in the Václav Havel mode of things. We need to be honest about the state of world affairs.
And I think also Canada and America's allies could rightfully have seen themselves as holding a somewhat privileged position in that system too, right? sure, they weren't the U.S. They couldn't go around committing crazy war crimes everywhere and just getting away with it, but they had no reason to expect war crimes to be committed to them. They had every reason to believe that the U.S. would actually honor the NATO Article 5 or 4 and would defend them if they were attacked, right?
And they wouldn't be
So,
attacked by the U.S. To
right,
be
right.
a little crude about it, perhaps you could look at it as they were a house slave rather than a field slave.
That is
Yeah,
crude. You're
to be
right.
a little crude. That's a little crude. Donald Trump, his craziness has laid these truths bare, and it was probably true the whole time that they were slaves the whole time. And so when I think about the better place where we're going, I don't mean heaven. I mean like a future post-Trump when we straighten things out. We're not ever going back to this situation with America as the widely respected, indispensable hegemon. The world has little interest in this, I think, ever again. I don't think they're going to play along with that. Okay, next quote. More recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons, tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. So I think, our audience will immediately see, yeah, I mean, obviously they're talking about the US, but I think he's also talking about China.
Yeah, definitely the mention of supply chains is more China than the U.S.
Particularly their stranglehold of rare earths that they've leveraged against countries like Japan and things like that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and against Canada, right? I mean, so Canada, they had a ban on importing Canadian beef, right? Trade war against between China and Canada. So it is kind of interesting that the U.S. has behaved shamefully. China has also behaved shamefully in different ways. I don't blame any middle power for being very jaded with both of these partners, being very cautious and trying to be transactional and trying to work together as a group, because as a bloc, they actually are more powerful than either China or the U.S.
So I keep seeing these analogies here where it's like he wants these other countries to form a union, basically. He sounds like a guy trying to unionize his workplace almost. Alone we're powerless, but together we are strong against the boss. We'll tell
It is sort
management
of
what we really think.
funny that his example of like the people giving in to the totalitarian state was of the Czechoslovakian dissident who was rebelling against the totalitarian communist state, and he's looking for a workers of the world unite kind of situation where the disempowered unite and stand up to the bosses.
So here's another quote from him. There's a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. And he basically says, this doesn't work, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's not just like the people who are trying to unionize their workforce, when they say we need to like work together, if we work together, we'll win. They're right. Like if you work alone and you get divided and conquered, then you get conquered. But if you work together, then you don't. And yeah, I mean, he is explicitly not proposing like a single block formation.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking about different groups with shared interests for different issues.
It's smart. It's far more sustainable as a project. He's not advocating for sort of like a Cold War situation. The equivalent would be the unaligned movement, where countries like India, Indonesia, Yugoslavia, they united as a third bloc against the Soviet and American blocks or Western blocks. That's not what he's advocating for. He's basically just like, we're going to be alone. The big dogs are going to be bullying us, and we need to find ways of uniting on similar interests in ways that shore up our position against the global hegemons.
Right. And to quote him, he says, sovereignty that was once grounded in rules will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. And he does this as he's negotiating trade deals with Trump, right? It's not that he's not negotiating with Trump. It's not that Canada doesn't trade with the U.S. It still is, by far its number one trade partner. But he's starting to trade more with China, make trade deals over there. It's like, yeah, cheap electric vehicles will be good for Canada. So in the short run, building their capacity will be good for them in the long run. So yeah, they want to build the ability to withstand pressure.
You pulled a lot of quotes. I mean, I watched the speech too, and I'm kind of reading through the quotes you pulled. It's like you pulled out so many quotes, it's like you have the whole speech here because there's just nonstop bangers. But like, feel like maybe I missed it or you missed it. There was probably a part where he was like the conservatives in Canada, they're tearing apart the country. They don't know what they're doing. They're a mess. And like he was probably talking about how great he was and like how he's like
He
the
should have
most
won the
amazing
Nobel
prime
Peace
minister of
Prize.
Canada, and he should win. Yeah, he should win the FIFA Peace Prize.
No, actually, I don't.
That was in there
They
too,
must have,
right?
no, that wasn't. Though I'm not not fluffing the guy too much over this speech. It was a really good speech, but there was some just playing to his domestic audience, enumerating his accomplishments, kind of like re-election stump speech, a little bit like inserted in the middle. So that was pretty lame. Could have left that out if it was made for me. But no, I know he skipped the like extremely petty childish. What's the
Are you
word?
sure, David? You wouldn't talk about how you won the Canadian prime ministerial election and all of your accomplishments?
Did he mention Rosie O'Donnell at all?
It would be really funny if he won the Nobel Peace Prize. I gotta say, like if like all the medium powers.
Who could it be given to anger Donald Trump the most? Do you think at this point it can't be Obama again? Although that probably would work.
No, I think it would. Like if it had to anger him the most, it would probably be like Obama again.
That would be hilarious, dude. Actually, he did nothing.
Run it back. I was probably Biden. I don't know. But
be pretty. I think he would probably drop dead. I guess. Okay, so yeah, this was a real banger of a speech. Like, yeah, he was trying to speak truth, and that's how it came across to me as being brutally honest in several ways. And so here's some of my takeaways. Right, honesty. It's important internationally, like Carney points out. It is critical domestically in our own battle against what I guess I have to call totalitarianism now, not authoritarianism. And I'm calling it totalitarianism because, like, what's the difference between these things? Totalitarians insist on controlling your thoughts, and that's what we're seeing out of this administration is an attempt to control our thoughts. Their police force shoots a man in the back of the head and then shoots him a bunch more while he's lying on the ground. And then they accuse him of approaching and attempting to massacre the police. Like, this is a blatant, obvious lie. This is a more obvious of a lie than a grocery store owner saying "Workers of the world unite" in Czechoslovakia, 1973. So this is totalitarianism. That's what they're aiming for. It's going to get really, really, really ugly if people can't be honest.
Yeah, lies are fundamental to a totalitarian state. They're like one of the things that define it, and something they can't survive without. And in some way, living honestly does fight against totalitarianism.
Read Power of the Powerless. Like, that's basically the solution that he advocates for. Yeah, here's another point that I took away. I mean, right, Republican politicians should learn a thing or two from America's former allies. I'm not calling them our allies anymore because we don't act like they're allies. So, and they're done with us because they're not stupid.
Our once and future allies.
Our former and hopefully future allies.
Fingers crossed.
Carney had this quote: "Going along to get along" is like the Republican politician mantra. It's really been hard to believe it time after time that they'll just go along with Trump on this stuff. Like, I'm reminded of Canada. They thought well, we go along with America all the time, so like we must be like a favored, like we're their favorite puppy. They'll treat us good. Until they fell out of favor, and Trump's like, we're gonna freaking conquer you. We're gonna slap massive tariffs on you. We're gonna make you our 51st state. Republican politicians need to realize, like, this is not gonna work. He is gonna eat you too. He's already eaten plenty of his supporters. Marjorie Taylor Greene is like, out. Is she out of office yet?
Yep. She resigned like the day she got her government pension. She was out of there, dude.
Right. So yeah, she got out.
Forgot about that. That's so shameful.
But, anyway, okay, that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who else? Mike Pence. Like,
Lauren
we could have a
Boebert,
list.
all of
Yeah,
his
Lauren Boebert.
supporters in Lauren Boebert's district who he wants to drink radioactive water because she voted to release the Epstein files, so he's taking revenge on the voters in that district now by vetoing their clean water project.
But, yeah, I mean, like, I
All these
wish I'd
people
done a better
who
job.
previously
Yeah,
advocated
every
for,
single
like,
member of his first administration who's been fired or quit, which is all
people
of them.
who said things like, yeah, the president says you should drink bleach. I guess you should. That's first term. And now they're like, maybe it's not okay that the president raped kids on an island explicitly for servicing pedophiles. It's like,
But I'm not
now
even
she's
talking about the
eaten.
people. He has no loyalty to you. As soon as it's convenient, he will turn on you. You need to get together on the right side of history. Welcome to the light side. Let's hold this man accountable. You are not his special puppy. If you are today, you won't be for long.
I think it won't work. I think fundamentally right-wingers don't think like left-wingers in that they don't imagine a better tomorrow. They act as if they're getting theirs in the moment. They're not trying to make a better world. They're trying to act in a brutal, savage world. So they don't believe in things like uniting with their coworkers to team up against the boss.
A somewhat ungenerous, but I wouldn't say totally unjustified view.
Yeah, that's about as much generosity as I'm willing to extend.
Trying to think of what I think about that. Like, yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that pretty clearly. I think that right-wing people can also recognize when they're being oppressed and lash out against their oppressor. I think they have that capacity.
So I'll be more generous. Right-wing people don't exist. Neither do left-wing people. There are just people. When people are acting in a way that is like my conception of a right-winger, they are acting in a brutal and savage universe. But, they are just real people who are acting to, like, in accordance to incentives and emotions and things like that. Like, I am being ungenerous when I say that right-wing people don't. Because I'm creating a category of right-wing people that don't.
Yeah, you're being
exist. They're just
tribal,
people.
right, and it's essential that we unite the tribe, right, or like that we
Unite the workers of the world.
Exactly. Another takeaway. I used to think that America was a force for good, and I don't think it is anymore. But it could be. I think that our power has corrupted us, and our allies should never submit to our hegemony again. But not being the hegemon and number one in everything could be good for our collective soul. Losing some influence and thought leadership, economic power, military allies will reduce us to just a normal country. And when you don't have some big stupid head, you can maybe act right. So I think we're going to be humbled, and humility is a good thing. So better luck next time, America.
Would be hard to have worse luck.
She's a sturdy old bitch. This America, she could take a licking and keep on kicking. There's going to be a time of great difficulty. I mean, we're in it, but it will continue. But I think there's a possibility that we can use our immense power for good in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Workers of the world unite.
Good people of the United States unite.
Yeah, I mean, the example is so funny to me because it's, this country is the workers. The thing we think of as the country is workers. It's the ruling class that divides us and does these terrible things. There's such a vanishingly small percentage of what is the country, which is the workers. And truly, if we do unite and stand up for ourselves, then there's no limit to what we can accomplish.
Except the speed of light.
Except for the great filter. Let's bring a couple more people over to the bright side. Let's do better. Let's learn from our neighbors. We are not number one. See you next time.